Video of the incident shows 23-year-old truck driver Jadarrius Rose had his hands in the air when Officer Speakman directed the dog to maul him.
Get on the ground or I'm going to send the dog. Here. You're going to get the dog sick. Get on the ground or you're going to get bit. Police canine, you're going to get bit.
Don't release the dog. Do not release the dog with his hands up. Do not release the dog with his hands up. Do not release the dog with his hands up. Don't.
Speakman released the dog even though state police officers repeatedly warned him not to.
On July 4th, 2023, truck driver Jadarrius Rose was going about his job, driving on the highway when a motor carrier enforcement inspector tried to stop him because his semi-truck was missing a mud flap. Jadarrius, fearing for his life, kept driving. After a lengthy pursuit that ended on US Route 23, Jadarrius got out of his truck with his hands up and was getting on his knees like he'd been commanded to when Officer Ryan Speakman unleashed his K9, sending the dog to attack Jadarrius specifically.
The Columbus NAACP's president says the video reminds her of dogs being unleashed on civil rights activists in the 1960s, and she believes this would not have happened if the driver was white.
Now let's go to the latest on that disturbing story out of Ohio, where a police officer released a canine on an unarmed black man who appeared to be surrendering.
A disturbing police camera footage released by the Circleville Police Department on July 26, 2023, shows the exact moment police officer Ryan Speakman unleashed a K9 on Jadarrius Rose, a truck driver who had already surrendered with his hands in the air and was on his knees. The video attracted widespread attention nationwide, sparking outrage amongst those who had seen it, with the governor of Ohio calling the incident a wake-up call for strengthened police training. You have a Circleville police officer making clearly a call that was not within normal protocol. Frankly, my first reaction was training. It really was. You just have to make sure that every officer has the right training, and that is not taking place in those smaller departments. The video got so much attention that even the White House got involved, calling the video tragic and disturbing. Our hearts go out to Jadarrius Rose and his loved ones, said Robin Patterson, an assistant press secretary. The president has been clear about the urgent need for Congress to pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act to strengthen public safety by promoting accountability and increasing trust between law enforcement and the communities they serve. The question on everyone's minds: would the same incident have occurred if the truck driver, Jadarrius Rose, had been white? Folks wanted answers to their questions, which led the Circleville Police Department to launch an investigation into the conduct of Officer Ryan Speakman in unleashing his K9 to attack Jadarrius.
Police here say they are reviewing the conduct of the canine officer involved, but it's not clear if he's still on active duty after that concerning scene, which was captured on camera.
After a few weeks of investigation, the Circleville Police Department issued a press release where they addressed a number of the questions people had. We know the video of the incident is upsetting and has attracted widespread attention and comments, including Governor Mike DeWine raising the issue of training. While we certainly respect DeWine's views and are always ready to discuss how to improve police training, Circleville's K9 teams of dogs and officers are trained and certified to meet current Ohio Peace Officer Training Commission recognized standards. This was not enough for people and made them even more outraged.
That an officer would unleash a dog on a black man that had his hands in the air and was on his knees. We were mortified by that behavior.
Let's take a look at the events that unfolded on July 4th, 2023.
The incident was captured on video. Police dog released on an unarmed black man who was pulled over initially for a missing mud flap on his truck.
According to the incident report, the July 4th incident began after a motor carrier enforcement inspector with the State Highway Patrol tried to stop truck driver Jadarrius Rose because the semi-tractor trailer he was driving was missing a left rear mud flap. Jadarrius actually obeyed the stop and parked his truck, but then several patrol officers got out of their vehicle and pointed firearms at Jadarrius, screaming at him to get out of the truck.
Get out of the truck!
At this point, Jadarrius got very scared, not knowing why he was being stopped, and having a firearm pointed at him, he took off.
Is there a reason why you didn't stop?
I'm scared.
You were scared?
The patrol officers, of course, took off in pursuit, turning into a highway pursuit. Jadarrius got even more scared. Several patrol cars were now following him, and he feared for his life.
I just didn't want to lose my life.
He decided to call 911 to report the incident.
A 911 call that his attorney indicated was Rose seems to confirm that he was afraid.
The dispatcher urged him to pull over so the officers could carry out their inspection, but Jadarrius refused. He told the officers of the first time he pulled over and how they all had weapons pointed at him, telling the dispatcher that he was afraid the officers would end his life.
I parked the truck and I was about to comply with them, but they all had their guns drawn out for whatever reason. It seemed like they're trying to kill me.
You need to comply with them.
The troopers who were in pursuit deployed different methods to get him to stop, but none of it worked. And the more they tried to get him to stop, the more scared he was of what was going to happen to him if he did stop. He continued to drive and entered another county before calling 911 again. He again let the dispatcher know that he felt they wanted to end his life.
I don't know why they're trying to kill me.
They're not trying to kill you.
Yes, they are. Obviously, they're throwing stuff on the ground, trying to explode the tires.
Right, so you'll stop.
Right, so they are trying to kill me.
In the second call to 911 in another county, the dispatch advised Jadarrius to roll down a window and speak to them, but he declined, saying he had tried that before, and they still pointed firearms at him.
No, they're not trying to kill you.
They are. Yes, they are. Because I do not feel safe with stopping. I don't know why they throwing stuff on the ground trying to get me in an accident.
The troopers deployed tire deflation devices called stop sticks twice before Rose's vehicle came to a stop, according to the incident report. The first thing he told the trooper who commanded him to get out of his vehicle was that he was on the phone with 911. The incident report also clarified when his truck came to a stop, Jadarrius was told multiple times to get out of his truck before he finally complied with the order and stepped out of his truck.
Troopers chased Rose for nearly half an hour, repeatedly trying to deflate his tires before he finally pulled over and got out of the truck.
The footage also showed the moment Officer Ryan Speakman arrived on the scene as another officer yelled at Jadarrius to come towards him.
Come to me! You don't want bit!
At this point, Jadarrius was already out of the truck with his hands up, but then Officer Speakman got out of his vehicle, unloaded the dog, and immediately began shouting.
Get on the ground or I'm gonna send the dog.
At the same time, the other officer who had been trying to get Jadarrius to come to him also continued to yell at him to come to him, creating a very confusing situation for Jadarrius.
Come to me, man!
Officer Speakman's yelling had intensified at this point, and he was threatening to release the dog.
You're gonna get the dog sick. Get on the ground or you're gonna get bit. Police canine, you're gonna get bit. Police canine, you're gonna get bit.
The officer who had tried to get Jadarrius to surrender could now be heard warning Officer Speakman to not release the dog because Jadarrius already had his hands up, which meant he was surrendering.
Don't release the dog. Do not release the dog with his hands up. Do not release the dog with his hands up. Do not release the dog with his hands up. Don't.
It's unclear whether or not Officer Speakman heard the warning because he continued to yell at Jadarrius.
Final chance! You're gonna get bit!
But just as Jadarrius was getting on the ground, Officer Speakman unleashed the dog.
But Officer Ryan Speakman did, seeming to command the dog to specifically attack Rose.
When Officer Speakman first deployed the K9, it ran toward authorities before Speakman appeared to command the dog to specifically attack Jadarrius.
Here, nay! Nay, here! Still it! On the ground!
The police dog could be seen biting into Jadarrius's arm as he screamed, "Please, get it off me!" Jadarrius also appears to shout that he plays football as he begs authorities to call off the dog. The other officer also starts screaming at Officer Speakman to get the dog off Jadarrius.
Get the dog off of it! Get the dog off of it!
Once the dog began to attack Jadarrius, he could be heard crying out in pain shortly after, with his arm visibly injured.
In this edited body cam video released by the Ohio State Highway Patrol, the 23-year-old cries out as officers move in.
It would take the authorities over half a minute to remove the dog, and the entire time, Jadarrius was screaming out in pain. Once they finally separated the dog from Jadarrius, one state trooper walks away with her hands on her face, while the state trooper who initially warned not to use the dog asks, asks.
Was that not loud enough?
You said it 3-4 more times.
Jadarrius was then placed in handcuffs before being administered first aid. Although he was already in handcuffs and on the ground with injuries, Jadarrius was still held down by officers.
And you still laying on me like you pinning me down. I got cuffs on. Nobody is on you. Yes, you are. Look, you're grabbing my shorts.
We're trying to wrap you up.
I don't need it wrapped up right now.
Jadarrius complained several times that they were putting pressure on him as he was on the ground.
Bro, get off me.
I can't.
Bro, I have handcuffs on. What am I doing to you?
You could kick somebody. I don't want you to kick
I'm
anybody.
I'm not gonna kick nobody. I just got bit by a dog.
I understand that.
Man, you don't understand. You don't understand. Did you get bit by a dog? Stop squeezing me.
Nobody, buddy. Nobody's trying to hurt you.
Just let a dog bite me.
All you had to do was come to me.
I was coming. All the guns pointing at me. How you expect me to respect you? You got a gun pointing at me. It's like 20 of y'all.
The officer then told Jadarrius he could have avoided what happened if he had just stopped. The first time he was stopped, Jadarrius went on to explain that he did stop, but got scared of by the weapons pointed at him.
All you had to do was stop, brother. I did stop. I don't feel
20
safe.
miles ago.
I did.
Jadarrius was later transported to the hospital where he was treated for his injuries, and luckily for him, he didn't lose his arm. After the incident, Jadarrius was then charged with failure to comply with an order or signal of a police officer, a 4th-degree felony, according to the Highway Patrol, and could face 6 to 18 months in prison.
After being attacked by the dog, Jadarrius Rose was hospitalized with significant bleeding on his arms, then booked on felony charges of failure to comply. Video of the incident shows 23-year-old truck driver Jadarrius Rose had his hands in the air when Officer Speakman directed the dog to maul him.
In a separate video released by the State Highway Patrol, Officer Speakway could be heard asking a fellow officer if he did the right thing. Following his colleague's reaction to him unleashing the dog on Jadarrius, Officer Speakman can be heard appearing to defend his decision to release the K9 to one of his colleagues.
He didn't comply. I gave him 3 commands. I told him, final warning. If you don't get on the ground, you're going to get the dog.
He proceeded to tell his colleague he didn't know why the rest of the officers seemed pissed off at him, saying, "I don't know why they seem like pissed off at me." The other officer then responded with, "I don't know," before Officer Speakman asked him if his decision to unleash the dog was wrong.
That's why they seem mad at me for it. He wasn't complying. I mean, am I wrong?
While the other officer responded saying Officer Speakman's behavior was not wrong, the rest of Circleville PD did not feel the same way as he was promptly fired a few days after the incident.
Wednesday, the Circleville Police Department fired Officer Speakman, saying in part, he did not meet the standards and expectations we hold for our police officers.
Circleville PD released a statement about its decision to fire Officer Speakman, saying although the Use of Force Review Board determined that the department's policy for the use of canines was followed in the apprehension and arrest, his actions did not meet with the standards of the department. Circleville police officer Ryan Speakman's actions during the review of his canine apprehension of suspect Jadarrius Rose on July 4th show that Officer Speakman did not meet the standards and expectations we hold for our police officers. Officer Speakman has been terminated from the department, effective immediately. Our investigation included the Circleville Police Use of Force Review Board determination that the department's policy for the use of canines was followed in the apprehension and arrest. It's important to understand that the review board is charged only with determining whether an employee's actions in the use of force incident were within department policies and procedures. The review board does not have the authority to recommend discipline. The Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association, which is representing Speakman, posted a statement on Facebook that said Officer Speakman was terminated without just cause.
Speakman has not commented publicly about the incident or his firing, but the police union representing him has filed a grievance, fighting to reverse a termination.
Comments under the posts showed people's annoyance with the union for backing the actions of officers, regardless of whether or not they were wrong. One person left a comment saying, "This association is what's wrong with peace officers in the nation. How do you expect officers to act in accordance with the law when they know they have an association like this that will back whatever action they take? There is no accountability." Foolish statements such as this continue to fuel the drive to expel police unions from the AFL-CIO and other labor groups. Please continue to prove why that goal is necessary, another person commented. After the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association filed its lawsuit, the Circleville PD released more information about why former Officer Speakman was fired. According to documents obtained by CNN, he was fired for more reasons than the incident that took place on July 4th. Alongside the Circleville use of Force Board review into Speakman's decision to deploy his K-9, the report details an internal investigation into Speakman allegedly releasing confidential information. Documents obtained by CNN show Speakman's termination was due to violating department policy, specifically for unauthorized and inappropriate intentional release of confidential or protected information, materials, data, forms, or reports obtained as a result of the member's position with this department. The documents, which were first reported by the Scioto Valley Guardian newspaper, say his termination was also due to alleged dishonesty to superiors. It included allegedly talking about the incident repeatedly with family and colleagues and allegedly lying to the police chief about sharing those sensitive details. The documents include a July 25, 2023 report from Circleville Police Chief G. Sean Baer, where he said he received reports of Speakman as crying and talking with other employees about being stressed over the July 4th incident and being distressed. But that wasn't all. He was also upset when a local newspaper published the initial report of his involvement in the July 4 arrest and proceeded to vent about that to many people. Circleville Police Chief Sean Baer disclosed in a July 25th written report that at one point Speakman came to him crying and very upset, concerned that he was going to take away his K-9 partner, Serge, a 4-year-old Belgian Malinois Shepherd mix. He was begging I do not take his best friend from him, Baer wrote, according to the report. I told him that we had not taken K-9 Serge from him and that he was scheduled to go to training. I told him again, if you haven't done anything wrong, we would not take the K-9 from him. The chief went on to detail how Speakman violated department policy, saying he met with him on July 19, 15 days after the dog attack, and spoke to him about reports. I received that he was crying and talking to other employees about being stressed over the July 4th, 2023 K-9 deployment. During the meeting, which was also attended by the police department's deputy chief and human resources director, the chief ordered Speakman to stop talking to people about the incident, according to the records. Despite the order, Speakman continued to approach the department employees upset and crying. The chief again ordered Speakman to stop his conduct and told him if he was confident that he had followed his training and policy, that there was no reason to act this way. At this point, it was clear Speakman was not going to stop going around talking to people, so the chief had him compile a written list of everyone he spoke with about the dog deployment. The chief wrote that, on July 21st, Ryan Speakman brought a 2-page list of people outside of CPD that he had spoken with, but ultimately, the list grew beyond Circleville Police Department employees, according to the documents. The report details Speakman returning to the chief a day later and gave more names to the 2-page list. It appeared he had also spoken to family members about the incident. The chief, according to the records, described Speakman as being deceptive about his initial claims of who he had spoken to about the dog deployment. Ryan Speakman discussed so much information with so many people, it had immense potential to impact the Use of Force Review Board's ability to provide an accurate review. Ryan Speakman disclosing information to everyone, as well as his emotional state, had potential to impact the investigation. The chief, according to the documents, said he also told Speakman the review board had convened, and everything appeared that the deployment was within policy and training guidelines. But this did not stop him from crying and discussing the incident with more people. The review board met on July 6th, 2 days after the incident, and lasted a few days, after which the chief of police received a report from the chairman for this Use of Force Review Board, acting captain, Kenny Fisher of the Circleville Police Department, who wrote, "The board concluded that all personnel involved acted within departmental policy regarding the use of force and K-9 operations policy." CNN reviewed the department's policy manual for use of police K-9s. Apprehension guidelines state a K-9 may be used to apprehend a suspect if the K-9 handler reasonably believes that the individual has committed, is committing, or is threatening to commit any serious offense. Additionally, the handler must have a reasonable belief the suspect poses an imminent threat of violence or serious harm to the the handler, other officers, or the public, or if the suspect is physically resisting or threatening to resist arrest, and the use of a canine reasonably appears to be necessary to overcome such resistance. The policy notes, absent a reasonable belief that a suspect has committed, is committing, or is threatening to commit a serious offense, mere flight from a pursuing officer without any of the above conditions shall not serve as the basis for the use of a canine to apprehend a suspect. Speakman was officially terminated on July 26th, with the Circleville Police Department releasing a statement saying he did not meet the standards and expectations we hold for our police officers.
Prior to being pulled over and attacked by the dog, Rose had called 911 from his truck saying he feared the police who were pursuing him were trying to kill him.
As for Jadarrius Rose, his lawyer spoke about former Officer Speakman being fired, calling it a good start.
Jadarrius Rose's attorney, Ben Crump, saying the firing is a good start, but hinting there may be more legal action ahead.
This is not 1960. This is 2023.
In an interview after the incident, Jadarrius Rose finally spoke about what was going through his mind on that fateful day.
I just didn't want to lose my life or lose my arm.
Jadarrius recalled feeling defenseless and worried for his life. Jadarrius went on to say Officer Speakman didn't tell the dog to stop, saying he had to be the one to tell the dog to let go when the pain became too much for him to bear. Jadarrius's mom also spoke out, saying she could not watch the video of her son getting mauled, saying it was hard to watch.
I haven't watched the whole video, so it's been hard. It's very traumatic. I can't watch it. It's too hard.
The case didn't end there, though. According to documents obtained by CNN, former Officer Ryan Speakman had faced the disciplinary committee once before, but he was let go with a warning. Documents from Circleville's Department of Human Resources show he served a one-day unpaid suspension in April 2021 for police department violations, including an incident of horseplay that involved a firearm. The documents detail an incident where Speakman unloaded bullets from the magazine of a fellow officer's firearm. According to the report, Speakman took full responsibility for his actions. He called it a dumb thing to do, a mistake, and said he'd learned from it, the report shows. Speakman also said he had apologized to the other officer involved. Prominent civil rights attorney Benjamin Crump, who is representing Rose, said the Rose family is exploring legal remedies, including suing the Circleville Police Department.
And so far, no civil suit has been filed in the case, but Rose is facing a felony charge of failure to comply with that traffic stop. As far as the canine involved in the incident, the company in charge of its training says the dog's protocols were followed and that Circleville's canine team is being sent to their facility for evaluation and more trainings.
Hey, thanks for watching. We honor those affected by this tragedy and welcome your respectful thoughts and reflections. Do you know of other similar cases? Let me know in a comment, and before you go, make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell button.